It took 73 years to find the RMS Titanic. At the rate it's disappearing, it might be gone in another 30. Eaten alive. When explorers first laid eyes on the wreck in 1985, they saw a ghost ship. Deck railings were intact. The grand staircase, though collapsed, was recognizable. It was a metal phantom, preserved in the crushing dark 3,800 meters down. But look at it now. The captain's bathtub, a famous landmark on the wreck, has vanished. The crow's nest, where the iceberg was first spotted, has been devoured. The main mast has collapsed. Something is consuming over 180 kilograms of iron from the ship, every single day. You might think it's just rust, steel, and salt water, an inevitable chemical reaction, and you would be wrong. So very wrong. Deep ocean water is cold, around 4 degrees Celsius. There is very little oxygen. When under these conditions, corrosion should be incredibly. The Titanic should have been a near-perfectly preserved time capsule for centuries, a monument of steel frozen in time. But it isn't. Here's the part nobody talks about. The formations dripping from the hull aren't just rust. They look like reddish-brown icicles, some several meters long. Scientists called them rusticles. For years, they were treated as a geological curiosity, a strange form of decay. But they are not stone. They are alive. They are complex biological communities, a living matrix of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms, all working together for one purpose: to feed. In 2010, researcher Henrietta Mann and her team analyzed a rusticle brought back from the wreck. They isolated a species of bacteria never before seen by science, a creature perfectly adapted to consume solid iron. They gave it a name, a chillingly appropriate name, Halomonas titanicae, a microbe named for its most famous victim. This isn't a monster from a sailor's tale. It's a microscopic swarm working in perfect concert to dismantle a 46,000-ton steel behemoth piece by piece. They found it on a ship that sank in 1912. But this organism didn't die with the Titanic. So you have to ask yourself a very serious question. What is it eating now? You picture a shipwreck, and what do you see? A silent tomb, a ghost ship preserved forever in the cold, dark, crushing pressure of the deep. You imagine it resting peacefully, undisturbed for centuries. That image is completely wrong. The deep ocean is not a museum. It's a dining room, and our history is the main course. The first suspect is the one you know. Rust. A simple chemical reaction, iron meeting oxygen in water. It's predictable. Then there are the physical forces, the relentless currents that peel away steel plates like onion skin. The immense weight of the water itself, 2 tons per square inch, patiently squeezing a hull until its ribs buckle and collapse. For wooden ships, the villain was always the shipworm, a mollusk that can chew through an oak hull in a matter of months. Christopher Columbus lost ships to them. So did Sir Francis Drake. They are the termites of the sea. But all of this is known. It's expected. It does not explain the alarming speed with which our modern steel giants are disappearing. Something new is happening. Something is accelerating the process. And to find the culprit, we have to go to the most famous wreck of all, the RMS Titanic. For decades, we believed she would sit on the seabed for 1,000 years, a permanent monument. We were off by about 900 years. Here's the part that most people miss. In 1991, researcher Dr. Henrietta Mann was studying samples from the wreck. She found something clinging to the ship's steel, something alive. She discovered a previously unknown species of bacteria. It was given a name, a fitting name, Halomonas titanicae. These are the invisible vandals. They don't chew steel with tiny mouths. Their method is far more subtle. They are extremophiles, organisms that thrive in conditions that would kill almost anything else. They cling to the hull and feed on the iron oxide. They create vast icicle-like structures of rust and slime called rusticles. Some hang down 20 feet. They look solid, but they are as fragile as dried leaves. They are the bones of a ship being eaten from the inside out. Think about what that means. The Titanic is not just rusting. It is being actively consumed by a living colony of microorganisms. A city of bacteria with a population in the trillions, all working together to devour 180,000 tons of steel. Scientists now estimate the entire ship could be reduced to a rust-colored stain on the seabed by the year 2040. Gone. Forever. And it's not just the Titanic. This microbial mafia is everywhere. After World War II, the Pacific Ocean became the world's largest naval graveyard. More than 3,000 warships, cargo vessels, and submarines were sunk in battles like Midway and Guadalcanal. They line the floor of places like Iron Bottom Sound. For 70 years they have been leaking fuel oil, heavy metals, and thousands of tons of unexploded bombs. Each wreck is an environmental time bomb, and Halomonas titanicae and its relatives are the ones lighting the fuse. They eat through the steel, weakening the hulls and speeding up the release of these poisons into the marine ecosystem. What we thought were monuments to human conflict are now toxic wounds on the planet. The bacteria don't care about history. They don't care about the ghosts of the past. They are just hungry. So, the case seems closed. A microscopic organism is the culprit. We found the weapon. We identified the suspect. It's a simple if terrifying story of natural decay. But then, it gets strange. In 2016, a deep-sea submersible was surveying the wreck of a German U-boat off the coast of North Carolina. What it found made no sense. The U-boat was dissolving at a rate 10 times faster than the Titanic. 10 times. The known bacteria couldn't account for that speed. The chemical readings were off the charts. The decay pattern was different. It wasn't just being eaten. It looked like it was being hunted. So, if it's not just our bacterial culprits, what else is down there with them? A 40-ton whale dies. Its body falls for 2 hours, sinking over 3,000 meters into the crushing blackness. Down here, nothing is wasted. Hagfish and sleeper sharks strip the carcass in a matter of months. But then, the skeleton itself begins to dissolve. Every single vertebra, the massive jawbone, it vanishes into the silt. For years, no one knew how. What could possibly eat solid bone? You are looking at the culprit. Its scientific name is Osedax, which is Latin for bone devourer. You might call them zombie worms. They look like strange pink flowers blooming on a field of death. But they have no mouth, no gut, no stomach. The beautiful plume you see is just for breathing. The real work happens below the surface. A network of green roots burrows deep into the bone, secreting powerful acid. This acid dissolves the hard calcium phosphate. Then, symbiotic bacteria living inside the worm digest the fats and proteins locked within. It's a chemical heist in motion, and here is where the biology becomes truly alien. Every single one of these visible worms is a female. The males? They are microscopic dwarves. Dozens of them live inside the female's gelatinous tube. Their only purpose in life is to produce sperm and then die. A queen with a built-in harem, feasting on the ghosts of giants. For a long time, this was just a deep-sea curiosity, a strange footnote in marine biology, until scientists began connecting them to our own lost history. For centuries, we believed wood-boring shipworms were the sole architects of shipwreck destruction, a simple explanation for why wooden vessels from the age of sail disappeared. But it was an incomplete story. It didn't explain why we found cannons and anchors, but no trace of the crew, no leather boots, no wooden barrels sealed with animal fat. The human element was being surgically erased. So, in 2002, researchers from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute ran an experiment. They sank a dead whale to the seafloor and waited. The Osedax came. They swarmed the skeleton, covering it in a pink living shag carpet. Then they tried other bones, cow bones, alligator carcasses. The worms devoured them all. They are not picky. They are lipid specialists, and bone is one of the richest sources of fat in the deep ocean. Think about what that means for a shipwreck. A wooden hull is filled with bone and fat, the sailors themselves, the salted pork in the hold, the tallow used to waterproof the rigging, the leather made from cowhide. To an Osedax worm, a shipwreck isn't a ship. It is a buffet, a smorgasbord of skeletons and lipids conveniently delivered to the bottom of the sea. It seemed we had our answer, a neat, tidy solution to a centuries-old mystery. But it's too neat. The story the experts settled on feels incomplete, because the Osedax worm only explains part of the problem. It eats bone, it eats fat, it helps break down the organic material, but it cannot touch steel. It cannot devour iron. And our greatest wrecks, the ships we believed were eternal, are monuments of metal. The Titanic, the Bismarck, the USS Indianapolis, vast steel tombs rusting in the dark. And they are being eaten too. They are collapsing, disappearing at a rate that defies simple corrosion. We were so mesmerized by the discovery of a zombie worm that we took our eyes off the main target. We found nature's undertaker, the organism that cleans the bones of the dead. It's a horrifying yet natural process. But the thing consuming our steel titans has nothing to do with nature's ancient cycles. It is something new, something our own pollution and wreckage may have helped create. We solved the mystery of the missing sailors, only to uncover a far more terrifying one. What in the world is eating our steel? In 1986, Robert Ballard saw something that would haunt him forever. 2 miles below the surface, in the crushing dark, his submersible's lights fell upon a pair of shoes. A mother's leather shoes lying next to a smaller pair. Her child's. They lay on the seabed exactly as they had landed 74 years earlier, when their owners were consumed by the sea. The leather was preserved by the deep ocean's chemistry. The bodies were not. You are not looking at a shipwreck. You are looking at a tomb. Every bolt, every rivet, every steel plate is a headstone for one of the 1,500 souls lost that night. And here's the part that nobody likes to talk about. That headstone is being eaten alive. The culprit is not some kraken from mythology. It is microscopic. A bacteria discovered right here on this wreck, named Halomonas titanicae. It is a life form that eats iron, and it is ravenous. It clings to the steel hull, feeding on the metal, and excretes rust. This forms into delicate icicle-like structures. Scientists call them rusticles. They hang from the ship like frozen tears. The ship is weeping itself into oblivion. Every single day, these organisms convert over 180 kilograms of solid iron into a fine red dust. Think about that. The weight of a grown man turned to powder every 24 hours. Gone forever. Ballard saw this process with his own eyes. He argued that the Titanic was a sacred memorial, a place to be respected, observed, but never touched. But others saw something different. They did not see a grave. They saw a sunken treasure chest, a resource, a multi-million-dollar salvage opportunity. A conflict began, one that rages to this day. Should we preserve our sunken history or profit from it? While the lawyers argue in courtrooms, the bacteria down below offer their own silent verdict. They don't care about human laws. They only care about their next meal. And the clock is ticking. The crow's nest from where the iceberg was first spotted has already fallen. The grand staircase where Jack met Rose in the film collapsed into a formless heap. The captain's bathtub, a famous image from Ballard's first expedition, is gone, slipped into a hole in the deck. This is not a gentle decay. It is an accelerating collapse, a final, irreversible death. Soon there will be nothing left but a reddish stain on the ocean floor. A ghost, a memory of a memory. The Titanic is just one ship. There are an estimated 3 million other wrecks scattered across the world's seabeds. Each one a time capsule, each one a story, and each one is being erased by the same invisible recyclers. But what if this natural process is no longer entirely natural? What if something we are doing up here on the surface is making it all happen much, much faster? You think of a monument as something permanent, stone, bronze, built to defy time. We treat these sunken warships the same way. The USS Arizona, the wrecks of Iron Bottom Sound. They are not just ships. They are tombs, sacred memorials we believe will last forever. But they won't. Down in the dark, something is patiently at work. You've heard of the bacteria eating the Titanic, Halomonas titanici, a microscopic organism feasting on 50,000 tons of steel. But this isn't just about one famous wreck. It's happening to thousands of them, all over the world. Think about what that means. More than 3,700 ships were sunk in the Battle of the Atlantic alone, each one a buffet for iron-eating microbes. Every single day, the Titanic loses an estimated 180 kilograms of its structure. Gone. Turned into delicate formations of rust that look like icicles. They call them rusticles. Now multiply that process across every forgotten hull, from the South Pacific to the North Sea. It is the largest demolition project on the planet. And here is the part we struggle to accept. We can't stop it. We pass preservation laws. We declare these sites as protected. We try to hold back the inevitable, but the ocean has its own laws. Nature doesn't recognize our memorials. It only recognizes raw materials. An opportunity. For centuries, we have pulled resources from the sea. Now, the sea is pulling them back, and this is where the story changes. This isn't just about destruction, it is about transformation. The iron oxide bleeding from these decaying hulls. It feeds plankton. Those plankton feed small fish. And those fish feed larger ecosystems. The very steel forged for war is becoming the foundation for new life. A warship's armor plate, dissolved over decades, could become part of a coral reef. A gun turret could provide the iron needed for a whale's blood. It's a kind of alchemy. We fight to preserve the object, the physical thing. We believe the memory lives inside the steel. But maybe we are wrong. When the last steel plate of the final warship dissolves back into the ocean, does the story vanish with it? Or does it simply become part of everything else? A memory no longer made of iron, but of water.